The rumours around Graham Potter's future at West Ham continue to circulate after another disappointing result at the London Stadium. So let's bring in a couple of West Ham fans to talk about it. Guvna B and Tom Davis. A really difficult start to the season after a pretty tough last season as well. Guvna, how are you feeling about everything? I'm guessing not that happy.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, you know the answer to that question already.
It's a bit rhetorical, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, I was actually quite optimistic at the start of the season because we haven't won at home for quite a long time, even going into last season. But I was like, Potter gets a pre-season under his belt, a few signings through the door, and we'll be all right. A few games later, still haven't won at home. And yeah, man, for me, it's not great. I think the midfield is a big cause for concern. That's just glaringly obvious to me. We just can't seem to get control of many games, and I think that's a big area. And then obviously we've let in a lot of goals from set pieces. I think it's seven set pieces we've conceded in 5 games. And for me, like, I know I don't want to simplify the game. I know we've got professional footballers on here, but how hard can it be? Like, everyone get a man and don't lose your man.
Well, I analysed the set pieces yesterday last night on Match of the Day, and it's all second balls, and Graham Potter come out and said they've been working on set plays. So as a coach, there's only so much you can do, but they're not winning the first header, and then the problem is they're not reacting quick enough, and then the second ball they're conceding goals. So it's crazy to concede 7 from 5, but when you have a lack of confidence and a lack of belief, I think that's clear with the West Ham players and the fans as well. I imagine there's a lack of belief in the team. Well, it looks like the owners and the manager, so I can imagine it's not a good place to be for you guys at the minute.
Is it Potter in or out? That's what I want to know.
I
think the trouble is, right, is that you've had a pre-season, and I don't know if Gov, but like, but we've now, this is like the 3rd manager in that many seasons where we're signing. He's picked these signings apparently, allegedly, right? They're his players. So it's 4 or 5 games in, and you're talking you're going to get rid of him, bring someone else in who's going to have another way. If, for example, it's Nuno, don't get me wrong, I think the players we've actually brought in are decent enough players, but it's a whole different style then. And I think that I feel like when you look at the other teams that, like Palace yesterday or Brentford or the teams that we're around, each of them has like a clear style. Brighton, for example, who are now leaps and bounds but Brighton, I sort of know one of the owners there, and the way that they talk about the infrastructure and the club and what it means to be a Brighton manager or a Palace manager or a Brentford manager or anyone around, you know, they feel like they've got an actual style and they've got a tone of play. We don't have that. We've flipped and we flopped, and we're like, for example, now we'll lose. Potentially looks like Potter's going. Who comes in next is going to be a wild change. You know, I'd like to see someone like Kieran come in from Ipswich. I think he'd be good, but for me, I think it runs so deep. I went on soccer. I think you talked about this before, okay, but I went on Soccer AM when we first moved, and like, you know, I was never sure about the move. I think to step us forward, it was an amazing thing, but we all know that. And I think Everton, looking what they've done, is incredible. And mates of mine are Everton fans, but for me, I think.
But you want to Moisey out?
No, I did. No.
Thankfully, he's giving back to us. So.
There's certain fans who want it. I never. Look. Well, I've always been indebted to David for bringing us our first, a trophy. Do you know what I mean? And also, I actually didn't think we were ready to get rid of him. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it was bad to keep him, but there was a lot of people there, Wayne. You're right. Who be careful what you wish for. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's interesting with Potter because I feel I don't know, Wayne, you know more than me, but I think for players,
I think what you've just said before. I think when you said about Brentford and Brighton having a clear way of playing, and that's because the club identify the managers to come in, and the club have got their own philosophy, regardless of what who the manager is, they bring in and they stick to that, and that's why you've seen a progression with them clubs. I think what's happening with West Ham at the minute is, you know, obviously Moisey's got a completely different style to Graham Potter. For instance, in Slaven Village before, I know that was a while ago, and maybe talk of him coming back in at some point as a different philosophy. And when you're changing from philosophy to philosophy, which Man United have been doing in terms of Ten Hag and now Ruben is a completely different way. It takes time to then get players out, get players in, and then before you know it, that manager doesn't get the results, and then they're gone, and you're back to square one. So I think for the club to have a good foundation would help. And I've heard about it, similar with Man United, where they're saying that Man United, there's a way of playing which is great, but if you haven't got the players to do that, and I've heard West Ham, the West Ham way, which is probably going back to the 60s. But
No, you are. It's a bizarre thing that people that are like, even my age talk about the West Ham way. And I'm like,
What's your definition of the West Ham way, Tom?
I think the best team for me anyway was the Carrick, Cole, Rio. That team of youngsters coming through. That was a team where I was a bit younger myself, and that was a team where I was like, you could get behind, and there were young kids coming through the youth team. It was an exciting time to be a West Ham fan. I think Bilic's team was an exciting time. I don't know if there's even a way of playing what people sometimes deem the West Ham way to be anymore. But I certainly think it's very strange. Tobido, for example, people, what it's like, Gov. Before, everyone's talking about FPL and everything, and we signed this kid for 35 million to play centre back. That's a lot of money for anyone. Considering the lad Arsenal brought in for 13, that's 35 million for a centre back and he's not even playing. He's not. Bissaka's led heads and shoulders above anyone last season, and he, again, not playing. You're like, so you start wondering what's going on. Who's brought in Tobido?
What's happened? Because Graham, with managers, they don't become bad managers overnight. And
I think he's taken his time to become an absolute shocking manager.
No, but this is the thing about managers, right? Whoever, if Pep comes in tomorrow, he's still got a midfield. He's got Mateus Fernandes, who I think is a good sign, and I think he's the closest.
I think he's a good sign
that we've had. He's our ball winner, right? But then you've got James Ward-Prowse, expert professional, decent at set pieces, good passer, but
nice lad.
Control the game from the midfield. You won't grab it by the scruff of the neck. And then you've got Paqueta, who again has his moments, can find a good pass and all that kind of stuff. But you look at the Palace game, the way Wharton and Hughes, as that double pivot, controlled the midfield, we weren't getting anywhere near them. And we haven't got a player like Wharton just to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and control it. And I think whoever the manager is that comes in, if there is one, he's still got that midfield to deal with.
I think there's a lot of overthinking. I think since Pep come into England, a lot of coaches, and listen, I was guilty of that as well. You go into a job and you think, right, you want to play this way, you're going to do this, and very quickly you learn that, if you haven't got the players to do that, you can't do that. West Ham over the last 10 years, the success they've had is when you've got, your players like a Mark Noble or even Declan Rice when he was in there, players who have got quality on the ball, but they're going to take the game by the scruff of the neck. They're going to, lead the other players and, put tackles in and that runs right through the team. Then the other players react to that. And I think that's maybe where West Ham are missing that leader in there who's going to do that for them, in my opinion, from what I've seen this season.
The Potter situation, and I think the truth of everything that we're seeing, like I say, with the board, I think I think we could change. I don't think we'll make massive steps forward unless I think other.
All right, but if he goes, who are you bringing in? That's what we need to.
I like Nuno. Like I said, I think Kieran would be good for Ipswich, but I also don't think that I don't think enough is going to be done behind the scenes. And I still, as Wayne's saying, I think you get rid of Graham Potter and it's a bit like the United situation, but we haven't got United's money, so you're just going to keep on.
What about you,
Gov?
It's got to be Nuno. I don't want Kieran anywhere near West Ham.
Yeah, but Nuno's even more, not negative, I don't want to say negative, he's a very good manager and he showed that what he's done, but even more defensive than David Moyes is.
Yeah, but listen, Wayne, we just need to stay up this season, bro.
Because I will say,
we need to stay up.
I'll finish on this because I tell you what, that everyone was at West Ham, and I've been at a couple of games, people would turn around and go, "Oh, the clubs that have come up on that, all that." And actually, you watch Sunderland and Burnley, they're playing well, and Leeds don't look that bad, you know. So all of a sudden, you're looking around and you're thinking, "Okay, this is shaky now."